We're here today to talk about two religiously inspired works by two mega artists, Michelangelo and Donatello. And the first is the creation of Adam, and the other is Judith and Holofernes. And we are in the Sistine Chapel, and whoa.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing. So we can start off by seeing that Michelangelo, he's this awesome guy, and he started off his whole Sistine Chapel project at around 1508, and he finished at around 1512. But this main thing right here that we're going to talk about is the creation of Adam. And the interesting thing about this piece is that it actually had a restoration done to it.
Right, because the colors before, they were, like, bland and real reddish looking.
And yeah, it's kind of lame, but, like, now we see, like, this awesome, like, extravagant color usage that
so
Michelangelo...
vivid.
Yeah, Michelangelo started using, or, like, he did use it, but, like, now we can see it more clearly. And we can actually essentially take note that Michelangelo was not just a master of what the human body looked like, but he was a master of using colors. So another interesting thing about this piece is that according to Pierluigi De Vici, this piece was actually done in 16 giornata. And what's cool about this is that he was able to like add so much detail and so much extravagance to this picture, and we can essentially see that through God and what he's surrounded by.
Yeah, and let's talk about that. Like, what is that?
So, like, doesn't it sort of look like a brain?
Looks like a brain.
It looks like a brain, yeah.
And what is Michelangelo trying to get at by putting God in the brain?
Well, I mean, like, I guess Michelangelo was this guy. He was really interested in anatomy and, like, the human body. So, like, we can see that in his pictures and his depictions of the human body. And so, like, essentially, he's adding this concept of the brain and God being in the brain in his fresco. And this is actually also reflected in that, like, touch that you see between God and man. And, like, that's really cool because, like, it shows something that's happening in the human brain. When the neurotransmitters, like, transmit a signal, they basically pass through the synapse, which is essentially that small little tiny gap that we see between God and Adam. And essentially this is showing the separation between the divine and human aspects. And Frank Lynn Mescherberger also says that this isn't really about God giving Adam life. It's about God giving Adam wisdom and the ability to think as a human being.
And it's interesting to compare, like, this work, the fresco, with Donatello's sculpture of Judith and Holofernes. Basically, the story here is also biblical. King Nebuchadnezzar sent his general Holofernes to subdue the Jews, and when Judith overheard this, she went and seduced Holofernes and subsequently cut off his head.
Whoa.
Right?
That is brutal.
Yeah, and that's what's shown here in Donatello's sculpture. It was commissioned by Cosimo de' Medici in 1460, and its purpose was to stand by Donatello's other work, David. Joachim Polsch also said that Judith was kind of an immortal symbol of peace, liberty, virtue, and victory over the strong by the weak. So she could have actually helped stand for the people of Florence, that no matter how great or fearsome the enemy, even the smallest and weakest member of the resistance can make a difference.
Yeah, which is actually kind of cool because, as you explained in the story, Judith was actually this common, simple widow woman, and here she is doing something so great and magnificent. She defeated a powerful general.
Yeah, and the way that Donatello communicates this is that just her body movement, her stance, her facial expression is that of victory, you know, and I mean, and the sculpture itself is actually bronze, and it gives us a full 360 view.
Yeah, and what's interesting also is that it was actually originally thought to be gold covered.
So it would have been just shining and absolutely magnificent. You know, something else Donatello does here is there's such a detail, and there's so much naturalism. You know, look at the way her clothes just fall over the giant, you know, just so naturally like that.
Yeah, clothes and even the body itself. There's like so much detail in there as well.
Right. Authors of art will talk about also how Judith is portrayed differently by different artists, and you know the way that Donatello portrays her is fully clothed, but still there's so much feminism and there's a beauty in her face.
Yeah, and this is kind of interesting because it's actually different from Donatello's earlier David piece, where David was actually in the full nude, and now we see Donatello transitioning to adding more clothes and more details to the clothes themselves.
Yeah, and actually still retaining that detail in the face at the same time.
Yeah.
Interestingly, another way that Judith is different from David is that actually this is Donatello's only signed work.
So yeah, comparing these two pieces, Michelangelo's and Donatello's, we can see that they're essentially on the opposite spectrum. For one, Michelangelo's work is a fresco, while Donatello's is carved bronze. We can also see that Michelangelo's fresco is more of an art piece showing the creation and giving of life, while Donatello's sculpture shows the viewer the emotion that comes with the taking of life.
Yeah, and at first glance, this work doesn't seem to be referring to something sacred, but when you think about the idea of life and death here that Donatello is giving us, I mean, there seems to be such a connection between the sacred and the profanus, just like Michelangelo's work with God and Adam.
Just like it.